So in this video, I'm actually building out a proposal generating system, okay? It takes a form that's built natively inside of Na10. It captures information and it can actually email or send a PDF or send a message or do whatever you want it to do, but it will actually generate the client's proposal using AI, okay? And I've actually used a similar system like this built in Na10 that's a bit more comprehensive than this one. This is a bit more beginner friendly, a bit more user friendly to basically secure like a $2,000 a month contract with my client, okay? So before you sit down and grab a cup of coffee, please like and subscribe to the channel and let's get started. For those of you who are new to automation and AI, and obviously somebody who has never used Na10 before, okay? So just factor that in, but you can make this as complicated as you want. You can have as many slides, pages in the slides as slideshow as you want, right? And then you can have our team page if you want. I do have a team, but I don't really include that in there. I don't think most clients care, to be honest with you. All they're going to care about is, can you do the job? What's the timeline and what's the cost, right? The cost is always going to be the biggest decision maker, right? And then you have a thank you page. So we leave it as something like that. Okay, so this is the automation. Now, how this works is that there's an intake form. Now, this is an intake form that's built into N8N. So you can use it, but there's other ways to do it. You can trigger it with Slack. You can trigger it with Google Forms. I think Typeforms is in there, Typefully is in there, Jotform is in there as well. So you can use various different inputs, but I'm just going to use the built-in, right? Because it's just easier to connect straight away. Then this is the secret source. Okay, so this is the AI agent. So this is what's going to use. It's going to use the data from the inputs, use the examples I've given it inside the prompts, and then basically swap out all the curly brackets, all the dynamic variables with our information based off the intake form. Okay. Then there's a new create file Google Drive node here, and what that means is that I need to create a new Google Slides every time I do this, okay? Because otherwise, if I do it in here, it's just going to keep overwriting the same file over and over again, okay? And obviously, I don't want that. I want to basically get a log of every single proposal that I've sent out, and so I want to create a new Google Slides presentation ID, okay? Effectively, that's what it is. Then once that's done, I'm using the update slides or replace text node, which will then just go inside of the proposal, and then it's going to update it with whatever this generates, okay? So I'm going to run this for you now to show you exactly what that looks like. So this is the intake form. Going to call it John's Fishing Rods, and then the email address, you probably want to collect that because it's a good idea, and I'll show you why later. The problem is all our clients are referrals only, which seems to be a big problem actually. And the solution is we would like to send 50,000 cold emails a month for new business leads. Okay, the cost is, you should know this, but I'm just going to put in $3,000, and then the scope is, this is how you do it. Right, so imagine you're on a call with a prospect, you input all this information in, and then the project scope is exactly how you build this. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is scrape leads off Amplify, enrich using any email finder, which is what I've used, send the cold emails using Instantly. Again, this is what I use to do my cold emailing, and I'll probably record a future video in that, and then automate the workflow with N8N. Okay, due date, should know that based on the call. I'm just going to put a month for now, and then additional information is not mandatory, so I'll leave that for now. Okay, and then you can see the form has been submitted, and now it's doing what it needs to do. Okay, it's going to go inside of the AI agent and then create the output, and I'll show you what the slides look like. Okay, so this is it, it's done. Let's just head into this module here, or this node, and I'll show you the presentation ID. Okay, so just wait for that to load. This is the presentation ID, so I need to copy that, go into this here, and then in the URL, just take out the presentation ID, which is the long string after the /d/, okay? Just right before the /edit, paste that in, and then just run that, and then here you go. This is it. So it's gonna start the end. But yeah, transforming lead generation for John's Fishing Rods, which is basically everything I put into the template, okay? Into the intake form. And then you got a little blurb here. The problem, so you probably wanna just modify this a little bit, and I've left it as it is. Okay, I haven't modified the slides. I'm going to show you why. Okay, because you want to basically capture the information, but you probably want to put in some limits. I haven't done that in terms of the content, how many lines you want, how much content you want, and you can also change obviously the size of the font and the fonts itself. But you can see here based on the intake form, this is what they want. And yeah, here's the example. You could actually tidy this up a bit, make it smaller, move it up, that kind of stuff. I've left it. I'll show you some considerations before you have the final product. Okay. But you can actually make this smaller. The point of this video is to show you that you can automate this. But if you wanted to, you can move this up, you can move it around, etc., etc. If you do that, make sure you edit the original template, right? Which is the one with the curly brackets. with the dynamic variables. Then you got some timelines here. So this is, some timelines. You probably want to put some dates in here. You can add some dates and that kind of stuff. But again, I'll leave that up to you. I don't typically do that. If I know that, I've got 4 weeks to deliver a project, I'm just going to take 50% up front and then 50% on close. I just keep it simple as possible, right? And then this is basically all generated by the AI agent. And then you got project cost, which is the $3,000 that I put into the intake form. Again, if you've got a specific pricing dynamic, you can put that into as variables if you wanted to. I'm just going to keep it simple, and I want to obtain that information as quickly as possible and then submit the intake form, right, while I'm on the call with the prospect. And that's it. That's basically it. So how do we build something like this? Okay, so let's head over here. Just going to save this, and we're going to start with the automation. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want the form, right? So let's just click on the plus sign here. And like I said, there's the N810 form, there's form.io trigger, which I don't know what that is, form stack, there's Gmail, there's SurveyMonkey, Typeform, WooForm, JotForm, which is just a text field, and that's mandatory, right? So you want to make sure that, let's say you outsource it to like a sales team or like a VA that captures this information for you on a sales call. You want to make sure that they capture everything. And if you make it mandatory, if it's a required field, then there's no way they can skip it, right? They're not gonna make any mistakes because they have to put it in, okay? So client name is text. Company name is text. Email address is just an email, right? Because that's just error handled if they put it in incorrectly. For example, if they put something like john@.com, that wouldn't work, for example, right? Problem, you obviously want to know what the problem is, what the pain point is. That's the reason why they're on the call with you, okay? Which is just going to be text. Again, that's mandatory. Solution is a text field. Again, that's mandatory. Cost, you should know, right? If you outsource it to a sales agent or somebody in your team, you can put that. They should have like a chart or like a rate card or something, right? You should know what that is and put that in it. I've just left that as a text. I mean, you could put this as a number, but it's fine. It's not gonna make any difference to the proposal, right? As you saw, that's the required field. Project scope is a required field. So how would you build this, right? And so you saw that in my example, I put scrape leads with Apify. It should be off, OFF. Enrich using any mail finder. Send the cold emails using instantly.ai and automate the workflow with N810. Okay, even though I made typos here, it's fine. It'll pick it up, right? It knows what it is because this is ChatGPT we're using. Okay, due date, obviously that's mandatory. You want that, and then additional information. I've left that as kind of optional. You don't really need that, but you kind of get the picture here. Okay, so again, think about what information you capture for your business, for your agency. Okay, if there's anything else you want to capture, then by all means add it. Right? It's just a module here. It's just a form field. Okay, so you just add it here. Client name, text field, and this is where you select the required field, right? And then just keep doing that for as many fields as you want, okay? So I'm just gonna leave that as that is, and then let's just move this across here. The next module is the most important one, right? So that's OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? And then we're gonna use message and model. Okay, so text actions, message and model, and you're gonna create an OpenAI account and obviously plug in your API key. Okay, so if you've not seen me do that, go into the previous video and I'll show you how to do that. So you need to go into your platform.openai.com. If you don't have one, sign up for that. You're gonna need to either top up the account, or I believe you could do it through the subscription. I pay for it, so either way, it's fine. And then you're gonna get the API key from I believe it's gonna go to Playground, and then there's API on the left-hand side, and then you set it up, okay? It's really, really straightforward, and you only need to do this once for each platform, okay? So I already have that, and it's a text. We've got a message model, and then from the model list, I mean, you could use Fora Mini for this, which is very, very affordable. Right, it uses minimal tokens. It's super cheap. Honestly, this thing costs pennies, right? But I used the Fora Mini, right? And then the text, I'm gonna show you in the original what I did. Okay, so I'm gonna head back over here. Let's call up the AI model, and then, or the AI agent, and you can see I've done the text model, message model, and it's Fora Mini. And then if you know how I do this, and if you watch previous videos, you know that I always set the context, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in the context, and you don't have to spend too much time in here, okay? You can literally just copy this, just pause the video, copy this, or you just put in your own context, okay? Either way, just put something in. So you are an expert at creating client proposals. That's it. It's a system role, okay? The next one you want to do is basically text is your task is to generate a highly personalized and a high quality client proposal using the input data from a form. Okay, so it already knows that the input form is here, and you can see here that I've run it all. You can see that it's taken the data from there, okay? The personalized template has many fields. You must return these fields in one JSON object. Okay, so this is the JSON here, okay? And then use this format. Okay, so then these are basically fields from your, let me go back here. So from this, okay, so all these fields, right? Now this is where it gets laborious, right? And this just takes time. You just got to put in some sweat equity and copy and paste this, right? But all these fields, right? You need to put it inside of this workflow, okay? So you got the proposal title, and this is JSON, by the way, right? Proposal description, project summary. Now again, remember, these is my examples, right? Whatever you put into your presentation, just copy and paste it, right? Solution one, Description one, if you go back and let me jog your memory, was these variables here, okay? So I've literally just gone through this and just copied every single variable into the automation. Now, I know it's kind of time consuming, I know it's a pain, but remember, you just have to do this once, right? And it's gonna save you a lot of time in the future, okay? So I've got all these variables here, okay? And I've had some rules, okay? Because if you don't have any rules, it's not gonna know what to do, okay? So the first rule is keep it professional, but use a casual tone of voice, right? I don't wanna be too professional because I want it to be like a conversation between two friends as well. But I want quality and I want professionalism, okay? Be direct, right? If you're not direct, it's just gonna output tons of text, okay? Assuming you are writing to a Fortune 500 company, that again is just quality, professionalism. You can put in any rules you want in here. Maybe you've got some industry rules, right? Like maybe it's specific, if you're not doing an AI agency, but you're automating something else, maybe it's like law firms or real estate or whatever, right? Maybe you've got some specific rules for that industry, okay? If you do, then by all means, add it to the prompt, okay? Then do not leave any variables empty. That's very, very important. It's got to fill in every single variable, right? They must be filled in, okay? And then the next thing after that you want to do is an assistant role. So this one is a user role, right? Which is, we're telling the ChatGPT AI agent what to do. The assistant role is the output. What does it look like, okay? So based on this, the company name, right? We're just going to pull in from the fields from the intake form, okay? So the company name is just JSON. So you just literally, where it says company name, right? For the JSON field, you just drag in the company name from your intake form. Now, again, this is very customizable depending on what kind of information that you obtain from your prospects, okay? So just remember that, but this is based on the intake form that I've created, okay? And then the due date is obviously very important. These are the proposal, but I'll show you why it's a good idea to get that, to collect that. Problem is going to be the problem here. So all our clients are referrals only. Solution is going to be the solution field. So we would like to send 50,000 cold emails a month for new business leads. And again, I'm just mapping that JSON field. Okay. Upfront cost, additional info if it's there. If it's not, then don't worry about it. But again, this is what the output is going to look like. And for the sake of this example, I'm just going to copy this so I can put it into this here. Okay. So the first one is you are an expert at creating a client proposal. That's going to be a system role. Just remember that, okay? Then the next message, we're going to have a user role. Okay, we're going to copy all this, right? And just paste that here, okay? Now I'm going to show you a little trick with a website that I like to use, okay? And what that is let's just grab this. So let's just grab the JSON. Now, if you're not familiar with JSON programming, and I'm assuming that's most of you, that's absolutely fine, right? Like what I do is no code. And, I do come from a programming background, but, for the most part now, I just do no code, right? But let's just say you're not familiar with this, right? Or how do you format it in this style, okay? You head over to a website called jasonformatter.org, okay? Now, let's just say it's just gobbledygook, right? Let's just say it's like this. It's correct, but it doesn't look very formatted. It looks something like this, right? You can beautify it, you can format it, right? But more importantly, this will help you debug errors, right? Let's say if you make a mistake. For example, let's say if I remove that, right? You see, it's not gonna be able to beautify it because there's a problem. There's a problem because I've not done the syntax correctly in the JSON. So you see here, it says pass proposal title, proposal description, expecting a string got undefined, right? Do you see that? So if you make any mistakes along here, right? Like let's say you missed that. If I try and beautify that, it will then, once it gets past that, right? It will then tell you that there's a problem on the second line as well. So, or the third line. So let's just put that in there. Let's try and beautify this. Now, can you see this? It says pass error on line 3, solution description. So that's wrong, right? There's a mistake here, right? This is not the correct JSON. The correct JSON will be this. Okay, so you get the point, right? And you can, once it's done, you can beautify the whole thing and it'll look something like this. You see, so you see where it's kind of jumbled up like this. It's made it nice and tidy. And the reason this is important is because it's a lot easier to diagnose problems if you can see it and you can read it, right? Like seeing this and reading this is just much better. It doesn't really make a difference, but if I can bring it out and I can see it properly like this is much more ordered and it just makes my brain understand it faster. Okay, it's not that I can't understand something that's modeled like this, but looking at it from a top level like this, and I think if you agree, if you saw this for the first time, this is a lot more easier to digest. Okay, and then the last one is we're going to take the user role. Okay, so the assistant role. So let's just copy this, and we're gonna just copy this. Now this hasn't mapped because I haven't ran the intake form and haven't ran the process, so it doesn't know what these map fields are. Okay, but once I do, it will be there and it will look something like this. Okay, so what I suggest at every stage is just run the modules. Okay, just run this, right, to make sure that it can map all the fields, right? So we're just gonna run this, and obviously you want to just test the intake form. It's not connected properly, but you get the picture, right? So what I would do is come out this. You want to test the form, right? And anytime you see green ticks, it means it's worked. Okay, there's just one last thing that you want to do. I'll show you inside the main template. Here is, once you've done all that, you want to output the content to JSON, and that's it. And you could test the step if you wanted to. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. And then we're gonna add the Google Drive. And the first option is copy file, okay? So you wanna create a Google Drive account. If you've not done that, just go to create a new confidential account and then open these docs here, okay? So now there's two ways to do this. If you are using the paid account, you can host it inside of NA10 and that's fine, right? If you're doing it self-hosted, there's another option here, okay? So what you wanna do is you need a Google Cloud Console, okay? Just follow this and it's pretty straightforward, okay? So you wanna go down to Google Slides, right? And then follow it from this point onwards, okay? So when you open the Google Cloud Console, you wanna create a project. So call it something like NA10 AI proposal generator or something like that. Follow these steps. This is really straightforward. This is exactly how I did it. You want to make sure that you've got the app name, support, user support email, etc. You want to add the authorized domain. Don't skip this step because it's not going to work. So you need na2n.cloud, right? Because we're going to host it on Google's cloud. Then you want to basically put in the OAuth credentials, okay? So the most important thing here is you need a redirect URL, okay? And what that is this here. So just copy this redirect URL and then just paste it in this section here, okay? And then the API, you need to install and enable the API, right? You'll see it when you go inside of it, okay? You're going to do one for Google Drive and one for Google Slides, okay? But I've already done this, so I don't need to do this. Close. I've already got the Google Drive account, okay? The resources file, the operation is copy, leave it as it is. Then for this, you want to select the file, okay? Now, if I go back into the original, right, I'll show you how I did that, okay? So I'm going to take the ID, okay, and just copy and paste that into the one that we're building together, just to show you, okay? And we're going to use by ID, okay? And just paste that in there. And then for file name, that's just going to be the proposal title. Okay, so because I'm capturing that information, the proposal title, or you could even use the company name if you wanted to, right? You could use the proposal title or the company name from a previous module, right? So you have, in fact, let me get rid of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it and drop the company name, right? So we're going to use the intake form company name for the presentation name, okay? That way you can sort it and keep it, relevant, all that kind of stuff. So for this example, before I made it, so it does have the name in there, but I don't think you need all that transforming lead generation for fishing rods. So maybe the company name is just enough, okay? And then that's it, right? That's it. So all you need to do is place that in. For the file name, you're gonna take the fields off the intake form, right? And like I said, just use the company name for that, okay? Then we come out of that, and then the last one is the replace text on Google Slides. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. We're just gonna come out of this, and then we're just gonna level this up a bit. And then let's just add Google Slides, and then we want to use this one here, replace text. Replace text. Sorry, my window here is in the way. So again, you want to create an account, but so you have to do this once for Google Slides and once for Google Drive, okay? And again, follow the instructions in the docs here, which is this one here. And what you want to do is this time you want to select, so the first one you selected Google Drive to show you how to do it, right? Drive node, and the last one is Google Slides. Just find that, it's in this list here somewhere. There you go, Google Slides. You're gonna need a Google Drive API, okay? You're gonna need to install that and just follow that. It literally takes like 5 minutes, probably not even 5 minutes to be honest with you. Okay, but I've already done it, so let's just jump right in, close. And then for the presentation ID, if I go back into the original, I'm gonna take the JSON ID that's been created by this module here, the first one, the one before, what is it called? Let me just go back out. Come on, call it, create a new file. So the copy file node, the one that runs before it, okay? Because it's gonna generate a presentation ID. Remember, we don't wanna override this. That's why we're doing it like this, right? I don't wanna override the same Google Slides file, right? I wanna create a new one. So because of that, what we need to do is, if I go back into the node here, I'm gonna take the JSON ID, and that's just this field here. You literally just drag, drop, and then paste it here, okay? Because I've already done it. So that's what it looks like. And then if you could test a step, right? And I use a JSON view because then I can see that it's worked, what I test. And how do I know it's tested? Because you see this here, this field here, occurrences changed, that's a 1. If you see 1, it means something has been changed on that sheet. Okay, so go all the way down. Where's the additional info? That might not have changed because I didn't put anything in there. Okay, so if we go down to additional information, if that is updated, then that'll be in there. But for the most part, this is just for these variables. Okay, so these are the variables inside of my Google Slides. So proposal title, description, project summary. And remember, this is all been generated by the AI agent, okay? Solution 1, targeted email reach. Solution 2, advanced data analytics. I mean, that wasn't really in the scope, but you can add it in there, or you can just tighten up the AI agent and just say, just stick to whatever the intake form says, right? Don't deviate outside of those parameters, right? I mean, I don't mind this, advanced data analytics. It doesn't really take that much time. And if it charges something like, $4,000 or $5,000, more than enough in there, delegated to a team to do this. But you can tighten this up, and I probably would, because I just want to make sure that there's no scope creep, right? Like what I'm saying on the call, what I'm putting into the intake form is what I'm generating in the proposal, okay? Comprehensive A/B testing, again, that's the same. You probably want to tighten up a bit, but I just want to show you what's possible. Initial setup and content creation. We don't really need content creation in there, so we'll probably take that out. But I'm leaving this in there to show you how you can iterate, go back into the AI agent, test it, iterate, go back, change, and so on, right? You can make it better and better, okay? Then the ongoing campaign management, that's probably something that they'll probably want, ongoing scraping, ongoing mailboxes, and everything else that's involved with instantly, okay? And obviously, making sure that the output's exactly, how you want to see it, how they expect it, and how you want to see that. I'll probably do a future video on cold email using instantly and automations and scraping of A5, because I do have an automation for that, but I'll probably put that in a future video, okay? And again, you've got all this here, and yeah, that's about it. So that's how you set this up. You just take the ID, the actual presentation ID from the previous module here, okay? But because I haven't run this, it's not in there, but obviously test the step. So that's what it looks like. And then lastly, I've left it kind of open, right? So what do you want to do in the last step, right? Now, typically most people are just going to email the proposal to the client. That's what I typically do. But I mean, you can have like a human in the loop step if you wanted to modify a little bit more. So you could actually send this to like a Slack channel if you've got like a Slack channel or like a Microsoft Teams channel where you have like a private proposal channel, right? Like if you wanted to modify it or whatnot. So yeah, I'll leave that up to you. But if you do want to use Gmail, you just go into here and just type in Gmail, and it's just a very simple send a message. Okay, in fact, let me add it onto this one because I've actually got the email address. Okay, so let's add it here. And this is why I captured the email address, the intake form module, right? Because remember, I captured the email address, right? So this is how you make it dynamic, and you can automate the entire process, right? Every time you have a new sales call, you'll have the details and you can automate it, okay? Message here, right? And then you can just fill out the rest of it, right? Thanks for the call earlier today. Here's the project proposal as promised. Okay, and then just put a link. So go back up here and you just get the, where is it? There is a URL here. You just plug in, or you could do it. You could just take the original URL and you can just create a dynamic string of that. Okay, so go back into here and you just edit this bit here. So this is my template, and then you can replace it with the presentation ID here, okay? So that's how you do that. Oh, let me just check one more step, and then subject line. Okay, so you can put something like, let's do company name, right? Here's your proposal. Now, obviously test the subject line, right? Like subject lines are really important because if the subject line isn't catchy, isn't engaging, clickbait, they're not gonna open it, right? So just test a few things. I usually typically test like two or three at the same time. Whatever has the best open rates is the one that I go with, okay? Or you could just do test different ones, or just look at what your competitors are doing. That's a great idea as well. I look at sometimes what my competitors do, and what better way to sell your services than automating it and showing them that you're using AI, you're using automations, you're very familiar with NA10, or you could do this on make.com. I'm just showing you NA10 for this particular example. But yeah, hopefully you see the value of this, the power of this, and I've actually closed some high ticket clients using systems like this. So don't underestimate what you can do with automations and specifically AI. This module here, this is a secret sauce, okay? So hopefully you like this video. Just like it, comment, share, and most importantly, please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video. Thanks again.